All right. So I was just doing some work and listening to a Garland Farms video, and all of a sudden he brought somebody on named Farmer Patty, and then these guys started talking about me, and I noticed a few things that I thought might be worth clearing up. So let's see. Okay.
Yeah.
Here's Farmer Patty. Welcome, Farmer Patty. Are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hi,
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good.
Yeah, so I see you guys are talking about soy usage right now. Uh, I wanted to let you know that Reasonable Vegan asked me to talk to him on his channel.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw him request you to come on his channel. That was in my comments section.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to do it?
I mean, like I have argued with vegans before. I do it a lot on Discord. I did tell him he could message me on my Instagram because I didn't want to give him my personal emails because one of my emails has my family name and last name on it, and then the other email I just don't want to give it to him.
Yeah, just in case Farmer Patty ever watches this reaction I'm doing. I don't know if you saw the comment I responded to, but I don't have Instagram. So I won't be able to react there. I don't know if there's any other good way to get in touch. I use Messenger. I believe Messenger used to be connected to Facebook, but now you can have Messenger without Facebook. So anyways, so if you do have any interest in actually talking, then yeah, that's probably the best way to get in touch would be to email of some kind or Messenger.
Yeah, I'll probably do it if it ends up happening. I don't know what exactly.
You should. I hope you do. I mean, in the sense that everybody should talk to everybody. Anybody that's actually interested in talking to people. I mean, people shouldn't waste their time with trolls or whatever. But yeah, if somebody is honest and open and willing to chat, they should. And I'm curious to hear from various different people, especially farmers, especially anybody that disagrees with veganism. If you have a thought, if you have an idea, something that you think should exist or be or whatever, then the things you should want the most are to hear the counters to it. You can't know if what you think is right unless you hear all the different sides, or preferably as many sides as possible. Obviously, a topic could have like 50 different angles, and you can't research every single thing. But anyways, yeah, I want to hear counters to veganism to make sure I made the right choice.
He'd want to try to talk to me about.
He asked me also. He had sent me an email about having a conversation. I put it on the back burner also, but yeah. There's somebody, I guess, something McCaffrey that seems to be hovering around Carson from a Reasonable Vegan since a JD talk. I spoke to him on JD's stream, and I won't say the big long story, but basically my premise was if I have 32 chickens in my backyard and I just use them for eggs, and I slaughter locally, let's say 2 animals, a cow and a pig, and we eat pretty much a carnivore and just eat seasonally, I technically would have caused 2 deaths that were very short in duration and low intensity, because we all have to kill something to eat. And I tried to bring that and say, listen, if I'm truly going to do that, I don't see how this is. I see this as even more ethical than a vegan diet, because the vegan admitted himself that there would be, let's say, 1,000 wild animals killed indirectly, not by his hands, but because of his menu. I brought that down to 100. I said, even 50. It didn't matter, because it will always be more than my 2 animals that died very quickly with not a lot of pain. And yeah, during that discussion, it was pretty much mental gymnastics, to the point of them saying, no, we rather indirectly kill 1,000 animals that'll suffer slowly and painful, just so we can say that we did it directly with the intention of killing them to use them for food. That's insane. I'm glad it was done in front of the internet, but what do you think of that? Such a stupid claim that somebody literally saying, I'm only killing 2 animals, and
I think
family.
Farmer Patty dropped off somehow.
Oh, great. I have that effect with ladies. Sorry, Judy.
Okay, so I'm going to react to what Jason just said. So I didn't see the talk that Jason had with Michael. I don't want to speak for Michael, obviously. But I do want to say that talking to Michael, I don't think Michael takes this stance. Now, I don't know where his cutoff is comparing an accidental death to an intentional death. But I do know that that depending on the type of death, like he might, well, I'll just say for myself anyways, that I would rather have 1,000 insect deaths than like 1 mammal death. Now, again, it would depend on the details. Is that insect death going to lead to bird deaths and so on and so forth? But yeah, I think I don't know if most vegans would recognize that as a somewhat acceptable thing that you're doing, where you're killing 2 animals a year for your entire family. But yeah, anyways, it would really come down to what's actually happening. I think it's obvious that that's better than killing 3 or more for something else, especially if the nutrition's the same. So accidental or not, if the pig and the cow that you are killing to eat for a year, if truly 1,000 or even 10 animals like deer and rats and whatever, possums, whatever things are harmed, if they are suffering more, the same amount or more, and it's a higher number, then it seems clear to me that that would be the worst outcome. And but there's so many things to factor in. So you got suffering, you got death, you got slavery. So there's different factors. So in your case, you have 2 that are dead, and it seems like those dead ones didn't suffer much. You got the chickens, and the 2 that are dead are caged in. So the cage is kind of an issue. But yeah, it sounds like you're doing something a lot better than most do. So
I wonder if
She'll probably pop up again.
okay.
Oh,
Yeah, I changed share screens. I hope I didn't. Oh, here she is. She's back.
there you go.
What? You're there, Farmer Patty?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Did you hear like my question? Like, I just wanted to know your thoughts on like when I spoke to the vegan about like this is how I set it up. What do you think? It was kind of
Yeah. So there's 2 things. The first one is that so is reasonable vegan's name Carson? Is that his name?
Yes.
Okay, so the first one is the elk question. So what you just posited is the elk question, and what that is that's actually something that Joe Rogan had brought up to a vegan before. And Joe Rogan said, if I hunt an elk and I only hunt elk or any other large animal, I'm only killing that large animal. And even if you were to factor in the gun that he uses, or if he uses a bow and arrow, or if he like has ammunition, like obviously his effect on the planet or animals is much different than a vegan living in the city who drives or takes the bus to go and grab some avocados that came from South America. So
first off, avocados don't have to come from South America. They grow in California. I'm pretty sure they grow in Florida. But yeah, it's a factor in the grand scheme of things. But I just want to point out real quick, what she's pointing out, which is these are topics that we really, I believe, all need to get into, is that yeah, killing an elk in the forest is way better than what we're currently doing, and by we I mean just the majority with factory farming.
So vegans, when vegans heard this from,
Oh, but comparing it to what vegans do, um, yeah, I don't. It's complicated. So one thing I would say is these people that are eating a vegan diet living in some city, you got to look at, okay, so what would you recommend they do if you're saying that the elk situation causes less harm? So then are you saying that they need to figure out a way to get off the grid or to at least live out of the city? And if you're not saying that, then are you saying that they should take time to figure out how to go and hunt some elk? Because I don't know which different type of people have more time for something like that. But yeah, I mean, it would come down to a handful of different things, and we'd have to be able to actually get some stats, look at the numbers, figure out what's going on. But if farmers pay hunters to come and shoot animals, including deer, to keep them out of crops, and if we're using rodenticides and all these different things, if we can figure out a number of animals that are being harmed, suffering, and lose their lives for crops, then people should factor that in. The ultimate goal would be to figure out different things with innovation, with veganic veganic farming, sorry, and various different things that could lead to less harm. But I think we need to be honest with ourselves and honest with each other. If the harm is happening, then we would want the least amount of harm. So obviously, there is a situation if crop death numbers are closer to, like, say, what JD thinks they are, then that would mean that it's reasonable that killing an elk and eating one elk a year, like per person or something, is more humane than eating crops. I don't know if he's right, but we should keep this open mind, I think.
from Joe Rogan, they were very upset about it because it threw a whole wrench in. Well, Joe Rogan eats meat, but he has less effect on the planet than they do.
Now, there shouldn't be a wrench. A lot of people, the way humans think, usually goes your intuition pops in, and then you can potentially use reasoning if you try. And so if you view something as a wrench, that means you want to be right. You want your original thought to be right. You want your intuition to be right. But that's not a good way to do things. And even if we can't get around that, and that's how our instinct just goes to that, it goes to that. But we should realize the right thing to do would be to reason and to think about what is right. And so there is no wrench. If you think one thing is the more moral thing, it turns out it's not. Then if you want to do the more moral thing, you would switch over to whatever you now learn is the more moral thing.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that if Carson was told something like that, Carson would be like, well, then that's vegan. But
I think she's mixing something up. I think she thought Jason was talking about me, but he was talking about Michael. But
if he does not believe that you have less of an impact, then I don't think he's being dishonest, but he's not being very reasonable. He's being unreasonable.
What's interesting is the first time that he talked with JD, I do remember in the comments, and not only in the comments, but he actually said, well, JD, if you are doing it that way, to be honest, I'd have to say that you're vegan more than you are vegan more. You are more vegan than most vegans, and he said that. And I remember seeing that in the comments. I think he was coached to no longer ever say that at the penalty of hanging, probably by the community.
I was not coached to no longer say that. I say whatever I want to say. Now, I do talk about things that are more extreme than maybe most vegans do. Most vegans will, no offense, but a large amount of vegans will make videos for other vegans. They'll just make something that other vegans will pat them on the back, and they'll be just saying stuff that's easy to agree with. And it's just not something I'm interested in. I think that's great. That's fine. It's like the vegan gains type thing, where you're not making content to figure out answers or to have discussions with various different types of people, or to share information. But anyway, so that's I lose quite a few subscribers quite often because of this type of thing. So So, anyways, no, no reaction from vegans or anyone will lead me to change my stance on things. That's a stance I constantly use and say is somebody doing something like JD does, especially with JD's stances. He said that it's immoral for people to consume unhealthy animal products, like if somebody is consuming like chicken nuggets or something. He's said that this is immoral. If we are causing harm and death to animals, and to not get a health benefit out of it, it's immoral, and that's good. And he views that, and so that's something that I wish most people viewed. I'd prefer there to be, well, anyways, I'll just leave it at that. I still stand by that stance. This Jason guy, same thing. It sounds like he's doing something that I think is amazing compared to what your average person does, and maybe they're right, and it's overall the best thing. Who knows? News review. Okay, somebody says, what are we on today? We are watching, I was watching a live stream of Garland Farms talking to somebody named Farmer Patty and Jason Swartz. And, or I was listening to it while doing some work. And my name got brought up, so I decided to come out here and do a live stream to react to some things that were being said about me. So here we go.
He was right. It was honest in what he said.
I have a problem with him labeling everything as if you do something of less effect than other vegans do, then that somehow makes you vegan. I have a problem with that. And I think that's like, I noticed that he kept having these arguments and conversations with other vegans about this very issue because other vegans don't like it. I don't think that it's right at all to say that people who eat a meat product are somehow vegan. That seems to totally take away what veganism means, what words mean. So Carson's making an argument out of bias, which essentially the things that he likes, he's going to try to jam into this category because he's under the belief and assumption that veganism can never be proved wrong or debunked. Yeah. And so he has to change his whole definition of veganism in order for it to fit that.
Well, okay, so no. I mean, sort of yes and no, but not exactly. I think the original, whatever original means, the definition somewhat fits it. But the original, so when you go back to the original word vegan, is created in 1944. Donald Watson, there was a definition that basically referred to what you consume. You don't consume animals or animal products, essentially. And this was connected. This was the vegan society, and it was the definition of what makes you a member of this society. Now, the vegetarian society that this spawned from was what happened before that. And so this was a kind of an answer to trying to further the vegetarian society to a more moral stance, so cutting out the dairy and the eggs. The vegetarian society stance, for a long time, so even like 100 years before the word vegan came into it, they were focused on things like not using leather and various different things that animals had to die to make. So the further you go back, the more you look at it, it's complicated. You can look at the word vegan as referring to a diet. You can look at it referring to a philosophy. Most people look at it as a mixture of the two. But yeah, one word can mean multiple different things. But you have to look at the reason why this exists. Like, for example, look at the reason why a lot of vegans eat bivalves. And it's because the reason to be vegan, to have this word vegan exist, is for sentient animals. This exists because something can suffer, feel pain. Like veganism doesn't exist to save flowers. It exists because something can suffer, and something that can experience life can have its life removed. And so if you find something that can't, so bivalves, clams and oysters and mussels and all these things, they are classified as animals for whatever reason it fits into being an animal, but there's no brain, there's no central nervous system. They cannot feel pain. They cannot observe things. So so there's no harm in their death. There's nothing being perceived by them. They are not sentient. So to say something has some original definition and it has to stick to that definition for all time is just it's just kind of silly. So it's good to look at, why are we doing this? Why can things change? Why can new information make something change? And it's because this like, it's not like I'm just wanting to hijack this word and change the complete meaning of it. It's because this thing exists about sentient beings, and to most people, it's referring to non-human sentient beings. Human issues are separate, and those are just their own issues. But so these are non-human sentient beings that are affected by this. So if the goal is something like, if there's a dog here and you kick the dog and the dog's in pain and you had no reason to kick the dog, this is bad. Whereas if you're starving and there's no food whatsoever, and then you have this last little bit of food and a dog's coming at your food and going to take your last bit of food, and you kick the dog because you need your food, then you'd go, okay, this is reasonable. So kicking the dog pointlessly was not reasonable. So we're also looking at factory farms going, none of this is reasonable. We're looking at all these different things. So the reason I point out that veganism can't be debunked is because veganism exists to care more about sentient animals. If we can successfully care about sentient animals to the point of not harming a single one, then that would be great. That would be the goal. But anything in between that and what we currently have would still be something worth having a movement for. The majority of meat comes from factory farms, which means people are complacent with this idea of animals being harmed for no reason. So you have this movement to change that. But if there's going to be deaths no matter what, deaths in crops, deaths in whatever, hunting, all these various different things, then the goal would be to have the least amount of suffering. So maybe it's not best to call Jason and JD here vegans, but it would be something like that. It would be that you have this idea of something existing. It doesn't even need to have a name. It's from here to here, and this exists, and this is for people that are somewhat on the spectrum of caring about animals so much they'll sacrifice their own lives, like Vegan Gains would, all the way to whatever extent of animals being harmed, but somebody trying their absolute best to not harm them and to harm as few as possible because they care, which would not include any factory farming. You have this like wide range, and we don't have to give it a name, but what I'm saying is I'm on there. Every vegan I know is on there. JD's on there, and Jason's on there. Do we have to call that veganism? Not exactly. But what are you countering? When you say you're countering veganism, are you countering this philosophy about caring about animals? Because you are and you aren't. Because I don't know about you, Jason, if your actions just happen to fall that way, where JD claims he cares about animals. So you're not countering that idea of why veganism exists, but you don't like the idea of veganism for whatever various reason. I can't even fathom exactly what it is to make somebody an anti-vegan. But anyways, so hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that comes across right.
Well, it's interesting because all we're doing is, a lot of us like omnivores, we're just returning to, we're jumping outside of the paradigm of shopping and by purchasing fruits everywhere. We're jumping back more towards homesteading, towards buying locally and things like that. And this is more natural. It reduces our footprint. It is healthier, and they don't have much to say about that, I think, because in their minds, this has really sprung up in the West, where everyone's on their computers, everyone's just going and buying stuff online, completely disconnected from the reality.
Yeah, I don't have. You're right. I don't have much to say about that, other than I think it's pretty cool. If you do like a homesteading thing, have your own garden, or in your case, if you just do carnivore or whatever, if you truly are trying to reduce as much as possible, even when it comes to eating animals, you're not trying to overeat. It's so much the least of my worries that I don't have much to say on that. So yeah.
Quality of how humans functioned, for food and stuff like that. So we're much whales, Shamu whales, in marine land, that if we would be pushed out of our little aquarium, we would die immediately. So I think a
Well,
large amount of it is based on ignorance that they're about to push it. But there are some omnivores that are saying, yeah, but what if I just pull it back here? I do a little bit of the egg thing here. I slaughter 2 animals, and then they're all caught off guard, as if it's yeah, go ahead.
No, so I was going to say, speaking of whales, like you brought up a good point about how in the West we have the ability of comfort, so we are able to get whatever we want in no time flat, and we have somewhat ability about like our consumer choices, and like I don't want to throw out my card here, but this would be one of the cards I would play if I were talking to someone like Carson or any other vegan.
Ooh, I'm right here, so you're talking to me. Let's go.
Is you should bring up people who live in sub-Saharan Africa, like Maasai, or in North Africa, like Maasai people, or bring up people who live in Saskatchewan and Nunavut out in Upper Canada. These are people who live in the Arctic Circle. They don't have access to strawberries and celery. And at least if they do, we're talking about $20 for just a little bit of fruits and vegetables compared to us who only have to pay sometimes cents on the dollar for it. So they have to eat whale, literally. They eat seal and whale and penguins and polar bears. They're hunting and they're consuming that food for a very short period of time. Their religious belief and their spiritual belief is not vegan. Their belief is that we are on this earth where we can consume animals because Mother Nature or my spiritual deity gave me this product to consume. Yeah. So for a vegan, right? You must ask the vegan, well, here's the idea. Either these people are not vegan and they need to be either forced to move or told to starve, or you must concede as a vegan that it is okay and non-vegan. They are non-vegans and it is okay for them to consume that food.
They're not vegans. Okay. Yeah. So if you view veganism as subscribing to a philosophy, and if they do not subscribe to that philosophy, then they're not vegan. If you view veganism as a diet, and that includes not eating animals, then they're not vegan. If you view it as a diet with the combination of what's practical and practicable and possible, then that's complicated. I kind of lean towards the Alex O'Connor stance on that, where that person might be considered vegan in that sense. But really what it would come down to is if where they live, if their entire world and their knowledge and of their existence does not involve pointlessly harming animals, then the philosophy of veganism doesn't even need to exist. Something that exists because of what's happening, what's going around, what we can understand about the world. Like the veganism was invented, way past the time of animal agriculture being what it is with factory farms. If factory farms didn't exist, I don't know how veganism would look. I don't know what exactly it would look like. But it kind of, veganism only works in the abundance that we have, some kind of it. So yeah, I don't know exactly what to say about this. I don't think it's like a challenging thing to say. I don't think there's anything to concede exactly here. Now there could be some argument. So I don't think something being traditional means it's acceptable. You can look at the Mayans and the Aztecs having tens of thousands of human sacrifices every year. That doesn't mean that that's acceptable. That just means that they did it. That's what they did. And it probably should have been stopped. Now, this is a different story. I don't know if these people want to live in an area where the only thing they can eat is whale and penguin. If they want to live there, if they would prefer not to, but they don't feel like they have another option. It's kind of complicated. But if they were consuming humans, if they were cannibalizing each other, we might view this as an issue where we have to go in and put a stop to it. So depending on our abilities and what we are able to figure out as humans with innovation, There's a possible world where they could be asked to move. That's not anything I want to do at this time. That's not something I really imagine right now. But I'm willing to look at that possibility. But yeah, people living all over the world, like even if you ignore this idea, if you just look at people living over the world eating animals in different ways, if they can't afford to do something else, they can't. I don't think they should starve themselves because all they might have is animal products. You just do the best you can do. So yeah, but again, like to me, I guess I'm vegan for a handful of different reasons, but the main reason I'm vegan is because I don't think we should unnecessarily harm animals. So if somebody can only eat a whale, they go kill the whale. Then they don't like catch the whale and then slowly torture it. They just kill the whale and then they eat it. I don't think that's needless harm. That seems to be very much needed. And there's not really any harm happening in that sense. It would come down to if there was like torture involved or something.
And that's why, like me and JD, like I have no problem saying JD is a lot further along the path than me. I think I'm well versed, but JD knows a little bit more, especially in certain areas. And this is why we're trying to form somewhat of a community that's not carnivore, not keto, not vegan, just just normal people that are omnivores that eat in a rational way that we can back up our ways, just so that we have answers. Normal people can have normal answers to these extreme vegans and stuff like that. So that's kind of like what exciting. Let's say you on the same page, JD, I'm on the same page. So if we can build more of a network where we can hang around panels and chit chat, get to know each other, then these vegan sites that will keep on asking us to come on, we will have the
a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, and we'll have the appropriate answers, because I know if every one of us are saying, whoa, I'm primarily homesteading. If I'm not homesteading, I'm buying local.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and stop this here. But yeah, so Garland, we have a bunch of stuff to catch up on. So if you are watching this, just a reminder, we should get in touch to finish up some talks we have going. Jason, if you ever want to do that chat, you can find me. Email is in the about section. I've been meaning to do a reaction video to a video you did on veganism and food stuff, and I actually agree with a lot of what you have to say. Like, I'm very into fasting, and I like you're talking about the Dirty Dozen with fruits and veggies, and I'm very into that. I prefer organic food over non-organic. And anyways, there could be a bunch to talk about if you want to. And then Patty, I don't know the best way for us to chat. If not, email. Maybe we can find each other through Messenger. Yeah, I'm not sure. Or I don't know if you have I don't know if it'd be hard to make another email that is one you're okay with using or whatever. But anyways, I'm always open to talk to people that have ideas they want to talk about. But other than that, I better hop off here. And thanks for watching, whoever's watching, and you guys take care.